My brother took my college fund, so I made him pay me back in public. I was at the family barbecue when they said it. Plates clinked, kids shouted, and the grill sizzled. My parents stood under the old oak, smiling wide. My father raised his beer and announced, "We used the college fund on Mark's business loan." People clapped and cheered. Mark grinned like he had just won. My drink shook in my hand and I felt the glass cut into my palm. Everyone laughed. I could not move. I wanted to speak, to shout that the fund was mine, the money I had saved with late shifts and odd jobs. But my voice was gone. Mark clapped me on the back and said, "College is not for everyone. You'll be fine." His words were a knife. I walked away without looking back. My chest felt hollow. I left the yard and stood by the fence until the cheers faded. I did not understand how they could celebrate while my future was taken. My name is Ariana Miles. Please hit subscribe for more true revenge stories. I stood outside on the porch with a plate of cold potato salad in my lap. The sun tasted too bright. Mark came out with a beer and clapped me on the back again. "College isn't for everyone," he said loud so everyone could hear. "You'll be fine. You can work for me." The words burned. My hands tightened around the paper plate until it bent. I remembered nights, washing dishes for extra cash, hours at the library studying until my eyes hurt. I had dreamed of a small dorm room, of lectures and a future that was mine. He smiled like he had done nothing wrong. People around them laughed and nodded. My heart pounded, so hard I thought it would break my ribs. I said nothing. How could I tell them that this fund had been my plan for years? I put the plate down and walked away. I walked past the swings, and the sound of children playing blurred into a hum. I left the yard and did not come back that day. That night I went to my room and opened the old safe in the garage. Dust rose like ghosts. I had put away every paper that mattered, the scholarship letters, the slips from jobs, and the trust documents my grandparents signed for me. My hands shook as I unfolded the trust papers. The words said the fund was for my college, only my use. I had proof. A rush of hope made my breath quick. Then I saw it, a withdrawal form with my name written halfway, but the signature looked wrong. The loop and the Y was off. The slant was not mine. I called the bank first thing the next morning. They told me someone had signed for the funds and the transfer was done 6 months ago. I asked for copies and they mailed them. When I held the copy, my stomach dropped. The signature was a fake. Someone had stolen my future with a pen. The room swam and I sat down on the floor and felt the paper burn between my fingers. I took the copies to my parents the next day. They sat at the kitchen table like the storm was nothing. I showed them the trust and the forged signature. My mother's face did not change much. My father cleared his throat and said, "You are not ready for college. Mark needed help more." The words were like cold water. I told them about my grades, about my work at the cafe, about every hour I had saved. My mother looked away and said, "We thought it was best." I asked, "Why did you give it to him?" Mark stepped in from the living room with a shrug and said loudly, "You'd waste it anyway." His voice made my blood boil. I felt something break inside. How could they decide my life for me? I packed the papers and left. My mother called after me, voice small, "We try to protect you." Protect me? I wanted to scream. Instead, I drove until the city lights blurred, and I promised I would not let this go. I remember the years in pieces. Mark getting the red bike when I wanted one, his name on every report card in gold paper. He had tutors, driving lessons, and a car at 18. I learned to make do with hand-me-downs and quiet wishes. I worked after school, cleaned houses, and saved every extra dollar. My parents cheered louder for Mark at every game. I learned to stand behind their smiles. As I sat in my small room, I thought of all the times I had been told to wait. Wait for money. Wait for help. Wait to be old enough. Mark had never waited. He took what he wanted. I felt years of silence press on my chest. I opened a notebook and wrote down dates, debts, and names. The page filled with marks like a map. I looked at the list and felt my hand steady. I whispered, "This is not over." The whisper became a vow. I folded the papers and slid them into my drawer. I would collect the wrongs and make them pay. The next morning I walked into the university office with hope clinging to me like a thin coat. I held my acceptance letter tight. The woman at the counter typed my name and frowned. She tried again. Then she said the words that shattered me, "Your deposit bounced." I told her there must be a mistake. She showed me the screen. The payment marked returned, the note saying insufficient funds. My hands went cold. I stepped outside into the bright morning, and everything felt too loud. Cars rushed past. Students laughed nearby, planning classes I would never attend. My throat closed and I stumbled to the far end of the parking lot. I sank beside a tree and covered my face. The tears came in a rush. I could not stop. It felt like the world had dropped me. All the dreams I had saved for are gone. I cried until I could not breathe. When I finally looked up, I knew something had changed inside me forever. That afternoon my Aunt June called and asked me to come over. She spoke in a whisper like she was afraid the walls might hear. When I sat in her small living room, she leaned in close. "Your parents always planned to give everything to Mark," she said. "They think he is the one who will go far. They call you the backup child." The words cut deeper than any lie Mark had told. I asked her why she never said anything. She sighed and said, "I hoped they would see you someday." My chest felt tight. All those mornings I woke early, all the nights I worked late, all the things I gave up because I believed in a future they never believed in for me. Rage filled me slow and steady, like rising heat. Aunt June squeezed my hand. "You deserve better," she said softly. And I believed her. For the first time, I let myself feel the anger instead of pushing it down. That night, as I tried to sleep, my phone buzzed. A message popped up from Mark's social media. He had posted a picture under bright lights, holding a mock-up of his business sign. The caption read, "Thanks to the fam for believing in me. Maybe my little sis can work for me someday." Thousands of likes. People cheering for him, calling him a leader. I felt sick. It was not just money he stole. He stole my story and turned it into his spotlight. I scrolled through the comments, each one a little cut. Then another message came through, anonymous. It was a screenshot of the forged signature. Then more pictures, different angles of the withdrawal slip. And one short note, "You didn't deserve this. Fight back." My heart pounded. Someone out there knew the truth. Someone wanted me to know it too. I saved every image and backed them up twice. The weight of proof pressed on my chest, but it also lit a spark. The next day, my childhood friend Daniel asked to meet me. We sat behind the old park swings where we used to play. He looked nervous. He told me something Mark had said years ago, something he had kept secret because he did not want to get between us. "He always bragged," Daniel said. "He said he'd take what's his and what isn't. He said your parents would give him anything he wanted." I stared at Daniel, the wind cold on my skin. He said Mark once joked that I was good for nothing but making him look better. Each word was a punch. I had defended Mark for years, told people he was stressed or joking. Now I saw the truth. He had been proud of hurting me. Daniel touched my arm. "You don't deserve this," he said. I nodded and pulled out my notebook. I started writing everything down. Every wrong thing Mark had done. Every lie. Every moment I had ignored. Evidence. The beginning of a plan. That evening my parents sat me down at the kitchen table. My mother had her arms crossed. My father looked tired, like I was the problem. They said I needed to stop creating drama. They said I should be grateful Mark might hire me later. "It's time to grow up," my father said. "College isn't everything." I stared at them, not sure they were real. I told them the fund was my future, that they had taken something I worked for. My mother shrugged and said, "Mark will use it better." The room felt too small. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides. I stood up slowly. My voice came out low and steady. "You chose him. You always did." They did not deny it. That was the worst part. I walked out the door without slamming it. Outside the air felt sharp. I looked up at the sky and promised myself one thing. Mark took my future in public. I would take his in public too. I sat on my bed with my laptop open, typing Mark's business name into every search bar I could find. At first it looked shiny, pictures of him smiling beside clean desks and bright signs. But when I searched deeper, the shine faded fast. I found unpaid invoices, angry comments from customers, and old posts from workers saying the place was a mess. Then I found public financial records. His business wasn't growing. It was drowning. I kept scrolling until my stomach knotted. The college fund wasn't used to start anything. It was used to rescue something that was already falling apart. A bailout. He stole my future to save his failure. I stared at the numbers until they blurred into dark clouds. I whispered to myself, He knew what he was doing. I saved screenshots of every debt and every unpaid bill. My hands shook, but not from fear. From anger. Real anger. The kind that makes you stand up even when your knees feel weak. A few days later, a woman named Tracy reached out. She used to work for Mark. We met at a coffee shop near her office. She looked around before speaking, like Mark might walk in. Then she told me the truth. Your brother didn't use that money for the company. He bought himself stuff. A watch. A trip. New speakers. All kinds of things. She slid a folder across the table. Receipts. Pictures. Dates. All charged to the business card, right after the deposit of my college fund. My throat tightened. I felt the room tilt for a moment. Tracy placed her hand on mine. People need to know. He's hurting everyone around him. I thanked her and put the papers in my bag. As I walked out, the sun felt too bright again. I had proof now. Hard proof. Every lie Mark told, written in numbers. I whispered to myself, keep going. For the first time, I felt like I was finally stepping toward something instead of away. That evening, my cousin Mia texted me. She said, I need to tell you something. We met behind my old school, where the benches were cracked and warm from the sun. She looked guilty before she even spoke. Your mom told the whole family you didn't deserve the fund, she said. She said you were lazy, that you didn't try hard enough. I stared at her. Lazy. I worked more hours than both my parents combined when they were my age. Mia nodded like she already knew my thoughts. I didn't believe her, she said. But others did. She showed me the family chat, messages about how Mark needed support and how I would be fine without college. I took screenshots, each one a sting. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I felt myself get very still inside. It was not just Mark. It was all of them. I saved every message. When I stood to leave, Mia hugged me tight. I'm sorry, she whispered. I whispered back. I won't forget. I found a handwriting expert online and scheduled a meeting. His office smelled like ink and old books. He studied the withdrawal form under a bright lamp, comparing my real signature to the forged one. He didn't take long. This is not your writing, he said. It's a forgery. A clear one. My heart pounded, even though I knew, hearing a professional say it made everything sharper. He wrote a short report and handed it to me. If you take this to court, he said, you have a strong case. I held the paper like it was fire. A mix of fear and hope ran through me. This was solid proof, something no one could brush off. When I left his office, the wind felt different. Cooler. Sharper. I tucked the report into my backpack and zipped it tight. For the first time since the barbecue, I felt a small spark of control. Something inside me whispered, you're getting closer. And I believed it. When I got home, my parents were waiting in the living room. My mother's arms were crossed. My father tapped his foot like I was late for something. They told me I needed to stop attacking family. They said I was jealous and dramatic. I tried to explain the forgery report, the truth about the fund. They didn't care. My father said, Mark is trying to build something. You should support him. My mother nodded and said, you always make things difficult. Then Mark walked in holding a stack of mail. He smirked at me and tossed one envelope onto the table. My name had been cut out with scissors. I looked at him. He shrugged. It didn't look important. My jaw tightened. Something cold settled in my stomach. They were not going to help me. They were not even going to listen. I turned and walked down the hallway. Behind me, they kept talking. But I didn't hear the words. I only heard one thought. You're done trusting them? 2 days later, my younger sister Lily knocked on my door. She looked nervous, playing with the sleeve of her hoodie. She said she needed to tell me something. We sat on the edge of my bed, and she kept her eyes on the floor. I knew, she whispered, about the college fund. Mom told us months ago. She said Mark needed it more. She said you'd understand. I stared at her. My own sister. She looked up with watery eyes and said, I didn't want to lie, but Mom said it wasn't my place. Her voice broke then. I'm sorry. I wanted to hug her, but something inside me had snapped too far. I felt disappointment more than anger. She could have warned me. She could have said one thing. Instead, she stayed silent like the rest of them. I stood and nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me now. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. I wasn't ready. I walked outside to breathe. The wind felt heavy. So did everything else. At work the next day, my boss pulled me aside. His face looked puzzled. Your brother told me you dropped out of school, he said. He said you couldn't handle it. That's why you needed extra hours. I felt the floor shift under me. Mark had lied to my workplace too. My boss said he almost cut my hours because he thought I was struggling. My chest tightened. I told him everything. How my deposit bounced. How the fund was gone. His face softened. I'm sorry, he said. You didn't deserve that. He handed me a glass of water and told me to take a break. I sat outside behind the cafe, staring at the brick wall. Mark had spread lies everywhere. He wasn't just stealing my money. He was stealing how people saw me. I pulled out my notebook and added this new piece. Every lie, every place it spread. The list grew longer. So did my resolve. If he wanted to ruin my name, he was about to learn I could expose his. When Mark announced his business grand opening, my whole family lit up like it was Christmas. They shared posts, sent messages, bragged about how proud they were. My mother even printed his flyer and stuck it on the fridge. I watched quietly from the hallway. I knew the truth now. His grand opening was built on my college fund, my chance at a better life. Everyone talked about how successful he was going to be. No one asked if I was okay. During dinner, my father said, "You should attend. Show support." Mark winked at me across the table. Something inside me settled, not anger but clarity. This was the event he wanted everyone to see. So I would let them see. I bought a ticket in secret that night. I studied the layout online. I checked the guest list. If he wanted an audience, he was going to get one. But not the one he expected. I closed my laptop slowly. For the first time, I felt calm. Late that night, a message popped up from an unknown account. It was a folder of scanned documents, loan forms, bank statements, signatures. My heart thudded as I scrolled. The loans were in my parents' names. Dozens of pages, each one connected to Mark's sinking business. Then I saw it, Mark's handwriting all over the forms. He was drowning in debt and dragging my parents with him. The message ended with, "They don't know yet. You should." My hands shook. I knew my parents had chosen him over me, but they didn't deserve his part. Mark was using them like he used me, like tools. I downloaded everything and backed it up. Suddenly the picture became clear. The fund wasn't enough for him. He wanted more and more. He would take anything just to keep his failing dream alive. I sat back in my chair, breathing slowly. Now I had the full story. Not just the theft, but the danger. He was about to collapse, and he planned to land on all of us. I stayed awake all night thinking about everything. The forged signature, the stolen fund, the lies at work, the loans in my parents' names, the bragging posts, the way he smiled when he hurt me. The weight of it all pressed on my chest, but beneath the weight was something harder, resolve. Mark took my future in front of everyone. He made sure people saw me as less, so I would return the favor. I whispered to myself, he did it in public, so I will take everything back in public. I opened my laptop and created folders, documents, screenshots, receipts, recordings. Every piece of truth had a place now. I wasn't scared. Not anymore. I felt steady, clear, almost cold. For the first time in my life, I stopped hoping my family would see me. I stopped waiting for them to choose me. I would choose myself. And I would make sure the world knew what Mark really was. I met with a lawyer named Miss Hale in a small office above a bookstore. She listened without interrupting as I laid out every document, every screenshot, every lie. When I finished, she leaned back with a slow breath. "You have enough evidence to bury him legally," she said. "If you reveal this in the right way, he won't just repay you. He'll lose the money he stole, the business he built, and the image he uses to control people." Her voice was calm, steady. "But you must be strategic. Public theft needs public truth. Otherwise, he'll twist the story." I nodded, feeling something shift inside me. For months I felt powerless. Now I held a path. She helped me organize the evidence into a single, thick folder. When she slid it across the desk to me, I felt like she was handing me a loaded weapon. "Are you ready?" she asked. I closed my hand over the folder. More than ready. For the first time, I smiled, and it wasn't soft. It was sharp. I spent the next 3 days sorting everything with slow, steady care. My desk was covered in papers, receipts from Mark's luxury purchases, screenshots from family chats, bank statements showing the debts, the forgery report, the stolen fund. I placed each item into labeled sections. Lies, theft, debt, forgery. Every page felt like another brick in the wall closing around him. At night I barely slept, but I wasn't tired. I felt awake in a new way. Focused. I recorded small voice memos, practiced what I would say, and even rehearsed breathing so I wouldn't shake. When the folder grew too thick to close, I scanned everything into digital copies too. I wanted backups of backups. I emailed the event coordinator of Mark's grand opening with a polite message asking for a special moment during the presentation. They agreed right away since I was family. My heart beat faster. This was the door I needed. I whispered, "He let the world watch him take from me. Now the world will watch me take it back." 2 days before the event, a large envelope arrived with gold lettering that spelled out the business name. Inside was a VIP pass, front row seating, early access, and a personal meet and greet with Mark. The same event paid for with the fund that should have been my college future. My hands tightened around the pass until it bent slightly. I could almost hear his voice, bragging, mocking, laughing. Not this time. I went shopping and found a simple black suit that made me feel steady and grounded. I tried it on in the mirror at home. For a moment I saw someone new, someone who wasn't begging to be believed. Someone who was done being stepped on. I hung the suit on my closet door and stared at it. That outfit would walk into a room full of his supporters, his investors, his fans. That outfit would hold the truth. I tucked the VIP pass into my wallet. My plan was ready. My proof was ready. And finally, so was I. The night before the event, I stood in front of my mirror for a long time. The house was quiet, but my heart was loud. I thought about the girl who cried in the university parking lot. The girl who begged her parents to believe her. The girl who hoped her brother would change. She wasn't gone, but she wasn't in charge anymore. I breathed slowly and repeated the line I had practiced. "You took my future. Tonight I take yours." My hands didn't shake. Not once. I packed the evidence folder into a clean black bag and placed my notes in the front pocket. Everything was set. Outside, the streetlights flickered like they knew something big was coming. I slipped on my suit jacket and felt its weight settle on my shoulders like armor. This was not revenge for revenge's sake. This was truth. This was justice. And it was long overdue. I turned off the light, stepped outside, and walked into the night with a steady stride. The ballroom glittered with gold lights when I stepped inside. People in suits laughed loudly, glasses clinked, cameras flashed. Mark stood near the stage, greeting guests like a king. When he saw me, his smile fell for 1 second before he fixed it back in place. My parents stared too, shocked that I had shown up. I walked past them without stopping. Whispers followed me through the room. I held my bag close, feeling the weight of the evidence inside. The event coordinator waved me toward the stage stairs. "You're up after Mark's opening speech," she said cheerfully. I nodded. My heartbeat was steady. Mark stepped onto the stage first, bragging about hard work and sacrifice while people clapped. His eyes darted toward me, uneasy. Good. When he finished, the coordinator gestured to me. I walked up the steps slowly, feeling hundreds of eyes on me. I took the microphone. "I'd like to say something," I said, and the room went still. The microphone felt warm in my hand. I smiled softly at the crowd. "I want to congratulate my brother," I began. Mark relaxed, assuming I was here to praise him. "But before I do, there's something everyone should see." I clicked the small remote in my pocket. The screen behind us lit up, showing the first screenshot. Mark's post bragging he'd use me as his future employee. People chuckled at first. Then the next slide appeared, side-by-side images of the trust document and the forged withdrawal slip. Gasps filled the room. Mark's smile collapsed. He whispered, "Stop." I kept going. "This is the signature used to steal my college fund," I said. "The fund meant for my education." The whispering grew loud, sharp. Mark stepped toward me, but the coordinator blocked him gently. My hands didn't shake. "There's more," I said. I clicked again. The room fell into a deep, cold silence. "Hit subscribe if you want more shocking moments like this one." The screen now showed receipts. line after line of luxury purchases. The watch, the trips, the electronics, all marked with dates matching the stolen college fund deposit. This, I said clearly, is where my future went. People stared. Some covered their mouths. My parents sank back in their seats, pale. Mark tried to laugh it off. These are out of context, he said weakly. But then I clicked again. A list of unpaid bills and debts filled the screen. Money he owed, names he ignored, companies he lied to. His business wasn't built with hard work, I said. It was built with theft. The whispers turned into murmurs. Is this true? Someone called from the audience. Mark's face turned red. He reached for the mic, but I held it tight. I'm not done, I said. Mark froze. The crowd leaned closer as if the whole room inhaled at once. I had only shown the beginning. The worst part was still ahead. I clicked again, and the screen changed to the forgery expert's report. The bold letters said determined, not signed by original party. The room erupted with shocked gasps. Even Mark's fiancée stood up from her seat, staring at him like she didn't know him at all. Then she walked out without a word. Mark stumbled after her, but I kept speaking. This forgery allowed him to steal my education. But he didn't stop there. I clicked once more. Loan documents appeared, ones taken in my parents' names. My mother let out a small cry. My father stood, fists shaking as he stared at the screen. These loans, I said slowly, were created by Mark. He signed them, not my parents. The audience watched Mark freeze mid-step. His face strained white. You did this, I said. To them. To me. To everyone who trusted you. The ballroom was silent, heavy and stunned. The truth was finally loud enough for everyone to hear. I clicked again, and the screen filled with numbers, rows of loans, interest rates, overdue notices. These debts, I said, were hidden from our family. My parents never knew they were tied to his failing business. My mother covered her face. My father stared at Mark like he was seeing a stranger. You lied to everyone, I continued. You spent money that wasn't yours. You used names that weren't yours. And you expected no one to question it. Guests whispered, their voices sharp and cold. Some of Mark's investors stood from their seats, faces red with anger. I watched Mark's hands tremble. He tried to step toward me, but a security guard lifted an arm to block him. Stop this! Mark shouted, but his voice cracked. You're ruining everything. I looked right at him. I'm not ruining anything. I'm revealing what you ruined. The crowd murmured louder. His entire image, carefully crafted lies, was cracking right in front of him. And he knew it. I held the microphone with both hands. You didn't build a business, I said slowly, letting each word fall heavy. You built a tower of lies, and you stole my education to keep it standing. The audience erupted, not in cheers yet, but in furious voices. Questions, accusations, disbelief, anger. My father stood and shouted at Mark, Is this true? Mark couldn't answer. His mouth opened, but no sound came. My mother stared at him like she finally understood something painful. Then someone in the crowd clapped. One person, then another, then more. Soon applause spread through the entire room, not for him but for me. For the truth. For the justice unfolding in front of them. My chest felt warm, steady, full of strength I had never felt before. Mark stood frozen on the steps below me, small and shaken. For once, the world was seeing him clearly, and seeing me clearly too. When the applause faded, I reached into my bag and pulled out a single sheet of paper. I walked toward Mark and placed it in a shaking hand. This, I said, is what you owe me. The paper showed every stolen dollar, every forged withdrawal, every fee, titled in bold letters, You owe me everything. His eyes widened. His hands curled. He whispered, Please don't do this. I stepped back and spoke louder so the whole room could hear. This is accountability. Something you've never faced. Then I turned, walked down the steps, and headed toward the exit. People parted for me like I was someone important. Someone they respected. My parents didn't move. Investors glared at Mark. Cameras flashed. As I pushed open the ballroom doors, the crowd behind me began whispering again, not with doubt, but with recognition. My truth had landed. My future was no longer in his hands. The moment felt final. And right. I reached the sidewalk outside when I heard footsteps pounding behind me. Mark burst out the doors, eyes red and wet. "Please," he begged, grabbing my arm. "I'll pay you back. I swear. Just tell them it's a mistake." His voice cracked like he was a scared child. For a moment, I studied him. The brother who took everything from me. The brother who believed I would always bend. "You'll pay me back," I said softly. "But you'll do it publicly, the same way you stole from me." He shook his head. "Please, don't leave like this." I pulled my arm free. "You chose this path, Mark. Not me." He sank to the ground on the sidewalk, crying into his hands as guests pushed past him without a glance. I turned away and walked toward the streetlights. My steps felt lighter than they had in years. For the first time, he wasn't above me. He wasn't ahead of me. He was behind me, exactly where he put me all my life. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. My family group chat exploded. My parents were frantic. My mother wrote, "How could you embarrass us like that?" My father sent 10 long messages blaming me for destroying Mark's chance. My sister Lily called in tears, begging me to calm everyone down. The whole family was cracking open because the truth had hit them like a heavy stone. By noon, Mark's investors were calling my parents, furious about the fraud. One even threatened legal action. My parents turned on each other fast. My mother blaming my father for trusting Mark, my father yelling that she encouraged it. Mark tried sending me messages too, long ones about how I ruined his life. I didn't reply. I watched their meltdown unfold from my quiet room. For years they made me feel small. Now they felt the weight of what they had ignored. My hands didn't shake. I felt strangely calm. They had chosen their golden child. Now they were choking on the choice. That evening, my parents showed up at my door. Their faces looked older, worn down by the chaos. My mother reached for my hand, but I didn't take it. My father spoke first. "We're sorry," he said. His voice cracked in a way I had never heard. "We should have believed you." My mother nodded, tears on her cheeks. "We didn't know about the loans. Or the forgery. We thought Mark." She stopped, unable to finish. I stood there, feeling the apology hit me like dull rain. Part of me wanted to forgive them. But the other part, the part that lived through the lies, the favoritism, the betrayal, knew the truth. "You chose him," I said quietly, again and again. "And now you want me to fix what he broke." My mother sobbed. My father lowered his head. I stepped back from the doorway. "I'm not your shield," I said. "Live with the son you protected." Then I closed the door gently. Their muffled cries followed me down the hall. A week later, Ms. Hale called me. Her voice held a smile. "The court reviewed everything," she said. "Mark is ordered to repay the entire college fund with interest. And he's facing fines for the forgery." My breath caught. It was real. Legal. Final. She explained that he would be monitored and forced to make monthly payments or face further charges. Later that day, news broke online that Mark's business license had been suspended. Investors backed out. Suppliers pulled away. The building he rented closed its doors. His business, his pride, fell apart in less than 24 hours. I watched from my phone as the announcement spread. People who once praised him now called him a fraud. My parents didn't speak publicly, but their silence was loud enough. I set my phone down and exhaled slowly. Justice didn't feel sharp or wild. It felt steady. Quiet. Right. I didn't destroy him. The truth did. And the truth didn't need my anger, only my courage. 1 week later, I received a letter from the university. I almost didn't open it. My hand shook a little as I tore the seal. Inside was an acceptance letter again. But this time there was something new, a scholarship I had earned through my work record and essays. Full tuition. I covered my mouth as tears filled my eyes, but they weren't sad tears. They were bright, warm, rising like light. I packed a small backpack that same night. Folders, notebooks, a single photo of me and Aunt June. This time, my future wasn't tied to anyone else's choices. I walked through my room slowly, touching the things I once thought I'd never take with me. My parents didn't call. Mark didn't call. The silence felt like healing. The world felt open again, like a door finally unlocked. I sat on my bed and whispered, "You try to take everything." Then I smiled. But I'm still here. Tomorrow I would start again on my own terms. Move-in day felt like stepping into a new world. The dorm lobby buzzed with voices, rolling suitcases and bright faces. I carried my backpack in one suitcase, lighter than the weight I had carried for years. My room was small, but it smelled like fresh paint and hope. I set my things down and looked out the window at the campus below. Students hurried to classes, laughing, talking, living lives I once thought I'd never touch. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Just my name. Nothing else. I stared at it for a long moment, before putting the phone face down. Not today. Not here. I unpacked my books and arranged them neatly on my shelf. Every choice I made felt like a tiny piece of my freedom coming back. I walked down the hallway toward orientation, feeling like my steps belonged here. I wasn't the girl they tried to crush. I wasn't the backup child. I was a student. And this was the first day of my new life. Later that night, I returned to my dorm room and saw the phone still buzzing. Mark again. Then my mother. Then my father. Voicemails. Long ones. All asking for another chance. All asking me to come home for a weekend to talk. I sat on my bed and listened to the quiet hum of the building around me. For the first time, I realized I owed them nothing. Not answers, not comfort, not space in my mind. I opened my contacts, found Mark's name, and pressed block. It felt like cutting a string that had been pulling me backward. I blocked my parents too. My chest felt lighter, like someone had opened a window. I curled up on my bed, listening to the soft sound of laughter coming from the hallway. The world kept moving, and I was moving with it now. No more noise from the people who hurt me. No more lies. No more guilt. Tomorrow, I would walk into my first lecture with nothing holding me down. The days that followed felt like slow sunlight warming my skin. I met classmates who asked about my dreams instead of my brother. Professors who saw my effort and called it talent, not luck. I joined a study group taught by a senior who encouraged me to apply for honors programs. For the first time, people looked at me and saw potential, not a shadow behind someone else's spotlight. One afternoon, I opened the drawer in my desk where I had placed the official debt statement Mark owed me. The check from the court was still inside, untouched. I held it for a moment. It represented everything he took, and everything I took back. But it no longer controlled me. I slid it back into the drawer and closed it gently. Money could pay for books, but it wouldn't define my worth. I walked to class with my backpack swinging at my side, feeling new friends call my name down the hall. I wasn't alone anymore. I was building something real. As I walked across campus toward my next class, the trees swayed like they were cheering me on. I felt calm, sure, steady. My past no longer chased me. It simply followed behind like a closed chapter. I paused near the library steps and looked around. Students rushing past, sunlight on pavement, the quiet hum of a future waiting to be made. A future I rebuilt on my own terms. My own strength. My own truth. I whispered to myself, almost like a promise. They stole my future in front of everyone. I let the words hang in the air. Then I smiled, letting the next part rise from a place deep inside me. So I rebuilt it, right in front of them. I picked up my backpack, straightened my shoulders, and walked into the building. And for the first time in my life, the future felt like mine. Fully, fiercely, and forever. If you love the story, make sure you hit subscribe for more true revenge stories.